Greenock United Methodist Church. It is Sunday, July 19th, and I welcome you all here. It's wonderful to be back in the sanctuary, that there are faces to speak to instead of just Jim. Love you, Jim. But it's good to see you all here. We come this day to worship and to praise. And while we are waiting, God is waiting with us. God's promises are both now and yet to come. Wait and see. Would you please join me for our call to worship? We wait with hope.
For God's promises are sure.
We wait with patience.
For God's time is a mystery.
Come and worship.
We will wait upon the Lord together.
The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Holy God of mystery and miracles, reveal your presence to us as we gather in your worship. Send your Holy Spirit to descend upon us as angels once descended to Jacob. Raise our thoughts that we may reflect on your promises and trust with hope in promises yet to come. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Our opening hymn this morning is Christ Beside Me. When we read the Bible, we hear all the promises that God makes to us. And as we read, we see where these promises are kept. That God makes a promise to us, and then later on we see, oh yeah, he said that would happen. And then when we get to the end of the story, we see that all of us who have been following God's word will rejoice together in heaven. And that is a great ending to the story. But the story doesn't end there. That's the beginning to a new story. So you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to worry with all the things you read in the Bible, with everything that you see going on in life. Because God promises us it'll all be okay. And that God will be here no matter what, no matter where, no matter when. And we can be assured that God will take us and hold us and be there with us throughout the whole thing, whatever is happening. So remember, when you're worried, look to the back of the book and read the end of the story. And you know that it is a very happy ending that happens for all of us. Our Psalter reading today comes from Psalm 139, verses 24 through 30, and then we'll jump down to 36 to 43. And David is our psalmist today, and he says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all of my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before. You lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you are there. And if I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." These are some great promises told to us from David. And we know through life's experiences that they are true. Now, enjoy our anthem today by Donna Albertson.
Not a single one comes close.
Our epistle reading today comes from Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verses 12 through 25. So then, brothers and sisters, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if you by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is that very Spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if in fact we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not of our own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay and will obtain the freedom of the children of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now, and not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our own body. For in hope we were saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. And our gospel reading today comes from the gospel according to Matthew, and we continue with the parables that Jesus put before the children of God. And he said, he put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, An enemy has done this. Then his slave said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? He replied, No, for in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Then he left the crowds and went into the house. And his disciples approached him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one. And the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of all his kingdom all causes of sin and evildoers. And they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears hear. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Do you ever plant a garden? Did you plant weeds? Well, it surely looks that way in mine. I planted beautiful flowers and vegetables. And now now every day I have to go down and pull out the weeds. We live in a world that has weeds. We live in a world that has evil. And sometimes we wonder, why does God allow it? Well, there was a man who was a carpenter. And on one particular day, he was building crates to hold clothing from his church. And they were sending the clothing to China. There was an orphanage there that needed help. On his way home, he reached into his shirt pocket to find that his glasses were gone. He mentally replayed the day when he had them last, when he saw them last, and he realized that as he was packing the crate, the glasses must have fallen inside, and now they were being shipped to China. Well, this time of the story, it was the Great Depression, and the man had 6 children at home to care for. That very morning, he had spent $20 on those glasses. Now we think that's not much, but those who lived through the Depression know that it could have been $1,000 for them. He was very upset that he had to buy another pair of glasses, and he yelled at God, "It's not fair. I was doing your work. Why didn't you protect my glasses? Why didn't you help me out here?" Well, months later, the director of that orphanage in China was on furlough in the United States, and he wanted to visit all the churches to help. So that Sunday, he was at the church where that carpenter had packed up all the clothes months before. The missionary began by thanking the people for their faithfulness in supporting the orphanage. And he said, "But most of all, I must thank you for the glasses that you sent last year. You see, the communists had just swept through the orphanage, destroying everything, including my glasses. I was desperate. Even if I had the money to buy new ones, there was nowhere to get new ones. Along with not being able to see well, I began having headaches every day. So my co-workers and I were very much in prayer about this. And then your crates arrived. When my staff removed the covers, they found a pair of glasses wedged between the linings." The missionary paused long enough for his words to sink in. Then, still gripped with the wonder of it all, he continued, "Folks, when I tried on the glasses, it was as if they had been custom made for me. I want to thank you for being a part of that." The people listened, happy for the miraculous glasses, not understanding what he was talking about because they didn't remember packing any glasses. But the carpenter sat in the back, and tears flowed from his eyes as he realized the master carpenter had used him in an extraordinary way. Now, there are times we want to blame God instead of thanking Him. Perhaps sometimes we ought to say, "Thank you, God, for not allowing my car to start this morning. Maybe there's a car accident I've avoided." Or, "Thank you, Jesus, for letting me lose my glasses. I'm sure they'll be put to good use. And there's a lesson to be learned." We've all made the mistake of not understanding the work of the master carpenter. When things do not appear as they seem, like losing a pair of glasses, we are upset and we're frustrated, and sometimes we even blame God, just like the carpenter had. "Why did you help me? Why did you protect me?" Because we do live amongst the weeds. The story you just heard reveals the miracle of the power of God, where God sees everything. God sees that big picture where we only see our world. Our world is right in front of us, in our home, in our church, where we work. And we get very angry when our world doesn't come together all the time. But God sees the whole world, where we may play a part in somebody else's life. God may use our misfortune to better somebody else's life who's in need more than we are. God is all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing, even to those whom we deem unlovable. We do have trouble with the brokenness of the world, but God gives us the Bible. Just as I was saying to the younger children, God gives us the Bible to read. It's not something to sit on a shelf or to be somewhere on a bookshelf or a box. It's to be read. And there we see the promises made to us, and there we see the promises fulfilled. And there we see that even though we may have discomfort in this world, we're headed for a great, great ending. The parable of the good seed of wheat and the bad seed of weeds show us that. In the parable, the good farmer did not want the weeds to be pulled up just yet. In pulling them up, you may pull up the good weeds. Now, when weeds are growing, did you ever look at it in your garden and think, hey, is that a weed? Or is that a flower or a vegetable plant coming up? So you let it go to see what comes of it. That's the same for the good seed and the weeds. If you pull it out too soon, there's that lost opportunity for someone to see the wonderful end of the story. We often judge others without knowing their whole story. When we hear of someone who's caught shoplifting, immediately we think, we'll put him in jail, he's a thief. But we don't know if he has kids at home who are hungry. We don't know if he's had a meal in the last day or two. We don't know the whole story. Now, to be sure, there are people who steal, and we do have the weeds among us. So that often we are critical of anyone who does not appear immediately to be good weeds. Do we appear to be good weeds when we're out in public and others see us? Would they look at us and think, oh, there's good seed there? Or would they see us at some point, maybe at our worst moment, and think, God should have weeded that one? So we don't want others to judge us, to fool us before we're able to show that we are the good seed, then we should not be doing to others. We should not be judging them. God knows the whole story of every person. God knows our hearts. And the heart may be good and pure, but circumstances really mess with a person's life. Jesus tells us to use our hearts for understanding, for mercy, for forgiveness, as we judge others. Sometimes we do need to turn to the legal system to solve the actions of others, but even then it should be done with grace and compassion. There is evil in the world. It's been present since the Garden of Eden, and Satan has been trying to dethrone the Almighty One since before our creation story. History reveals the presence of evil in this world. We see the many stages as we look at the genocide in the world, in times of Syria, and the people I'm sure we lived in who lived through the Holocaust as they saw it now happening to others. The Jewish nation was persecuted for centuries, and today they're still persecuted. People of color were hung, burned from their homes, and mistreated since the slave owners brought them from their own country to work here as slaves. These are all things that are part of our history. And although some want to erase history, we need to look at our history. We need to learn about it so we do not repeat it. We do not see the atrocities of the world and try to block them out. We need to look at them, accept them, acknowledge them that we may have been apart. And we need to learn how to continue through this world, how to stop the atrocities of the world. In our own community, close to home, we see the devastation of the drugs that can bring into a family. The parable rings close to home here. It's easy for a person who does not have a family member who has been addicted to drugs, fighting that addiction to drugs and alcohol. It's easy for somebody who's not had it in their lives to condemn others. I've heard people say, well, it's their own fault, they deserve it. Or why do the police give them that shot and bring them back? Just let them die. It's going to happen again in a week. I've heard all these things, and I just cry inside when I hear these things. When you hear this, imagine that it's one of your own. Would you want the police to just let your child die? Would you want the police to just let them go because it may happen in a week? Or do you want the chance for your good child to fight and fight and fight and maybe someday overcome it? If you've never had that addiction, you don't know how hard it is to fight through it. The thing is, you need Jesus Christ in your life to succeed. Satan has brought such evils into our world, and it threatens all our lives at some level. And it's easier to hate others for it. It's easier to let that bitterness take over us rather than to look deeper and say, why is this happening? What can I do to change it? For we are at war in our own bodies to fight the evil, to keep the evil from taking over. And when we see the atrocities of the world, it's hard to keep that evil out. We can let it take over and make us bitter as well. No one has ever said that Satan wasn't smart. Satan knows how to get to us, and will take every opportunity to do that. The evil one plants bad seeds among us that can pull us away from Christ, that can make us so angry we can't see God anymore, that makes us so angry at God for allowing such things to happen. So we need to be very, very careful, to be aware of all this. We need to know that Satan is in our world so that we can fight against it and not allow the world to take over. Because we don't want to be condemned too early. We do not want to be pulled up with the weeds. Jesus explains the parable very clearly to all who have ears. Well, that's everyone. Everyone is God's child. Everyone who may not know the Lord, they have ears to listen. They have ears to hear this and to change and to blossom. Many of the people who were addicted were once good people. They had successful lives. They were sweet children. Many of the Christians that you see now who have lost their way need to hear this story and brought back. And there are just weeds who just never heard the story of redemption and forgiveness. Christ knows our hearts. Even when our actions reflect otherwise, Christ knows who will be thrown into the fires and who is to be brought home to a glorious, glorious world where our stories continue. It's difficult in our time, but each generation has said this. Right now, if you read the Bible, you think, well, yes, this is the end. We have it about everything that says it's going to happen. That each generation has said that. Actually, we are still very fortunate that we have not lived what other generations have had to live through. Yesterday was a graduation party. Now, I've had three graduate in my family, and we were sad for them because they didn't get to have a prom. They didn't have to have the right graduation or parties afterwards. But to talk to the people of World War II, the people of the Vietnam War, of the Korean War, and they tell you the day after graduation, my son had to leave and was sent to boot camp. So we are very fortunate. We didn't get to have a prom. It is a shame. This is something they'll remember, but they were home and they were safe. We thank God for those in our country who lay down their lives for us. We do not have to have a draft anymore. People are willing to go out and fight for us. They have their gifts, their skills, their talents, and they're more than willing to use them. And we do not have to teach our children in school to hide under the desks in case there's a bomb raid. Did anybody ever have to do that? You know, was that desk ever going to save you? But we were still taught to hide under the desk. Our kids do not have to live through that. We don't have to worry about drinking contaminated water that you allow the livestock to go walk through first and drink first because they're so vital to your existence. We don't have to worry about contaminated water or money to drill a well, as the third world countries do. We are so very fortunate, even though we are living through 2020. To be sure, there are many people suffering, and we do suffer the evils that go on with prejudice and pride, elevated self-esteem in this world, and unbeatable viruses. We fight daily with the selfish nation who puts themselves first before the good of the nation. We see it daily in the crowds as they gather close together, maskless, to meet friends and family, to stand amongst strangers in a bar just to go out and enjoy themselves for a while. So with all this that we are living through today, what do we do with the knowledge of this scripture? Where do we put this in our lives? Well, Paul told us, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing to the glory about to be revealed to us. We're tired of staying inside. Lois, what did your church say this week?
I totally miss humans.
I totally miss humans, and we do. But the suffering we're going through at this time does not compare to the glory we will be a part of if we can endure. We must live out our trust in this fact that Jesus Christ is with us to walk through us all. Jesus is with us to walk with us through all of this to the end of the age. And that will change no matter what atrocities happen. We must trust in the promises made, that we're told right up front, there are weeds among you. Live with it, deal with it. Do something to change it, that the weeds may grow up and blossom to a beautiful flower and be part of the family of God. God sends us to save the world, and we believe that we have the faith in God that we will see one day a wonderful outcome. Even before we leave this world, we can see the grace and the glory of the kingdom of God. We can be a part of it. One day I opened an invitation in the mail, and I groaned. It was an invitation to another 1-year-old's birthday party. And I smiled and I thought, oh, can I get out? But of course I went. It was my great niece. I had to go. But inside the envelope, there was a note from Charlie. Charlie was 1-year-old. Soon I will be turning 1. Time passes so fast. Instead of more toys, I'd like gifts that last. Please write me a note for my special day. My parents will take them and hide them away. Then when I grow up, what a gift it will be to know how much you love me. I was excited to go to that party again. I love that. I still walk her to it. But I wrote her a note and I told her the story of Jesus Christ. That through this life as she grows, I know that her parents will talk to her about God, but I wanted her to hear later on how much she loved Jesus as a toddler. You know, as kids grow, sometimes they forget how much Jesus loved her and still does, and wants her to be a part of that family of God. So her notes will all be put into a little box, and that box will sit in the house until she's 18. And on her 18th birthday, she will read all these notes from people. And I think I have the opportunity to make an impact on someone's life with the words that I choose. I can choose to write about me or about her, or I can choose to write about her Creator, the day she was created, the day that she's reading there to see there are promises made to her, and one day we will all be together in paradise. So we choose each day what we can do in this life. What can we do that will make a difference in someone's life, that may turn them from a weed into a flower, into a wheat, into something viable, one that will last. We don't have to be afraid of what's to come and how things will end. Because of these promises that we have today, and we can share those promises with others, we can rest each day, even in the midst of all this strife. We can rest each day in our Creator's arms and say thank you for each day, because we do know the end of the book. We have read the end of the book. Some of us have read it 20 times in different languages. We know the end of the book, and that is a great gift. We've all been given this great gift to be able to identify who we are, whose we are, and then to go in the world and share that with others. So that I ask that we turn to Almighty God in a prayer now for our own lives to reflect the wheat in God's kingdom here on earth, and to recognize the wheat amongst the rest of the world, so that we too may be a part of this kingdom on earth. Please pray with me. God Almighty, Creator of us all, we come to you because we need you to help us become who you know we can be. Change our hearts for your world, for all your children. Ease our fears to interact with those we do not understand. Give us the attitude of hope for all your children to grow in your field into a wondrous harvest. May we reap in your love that guides us to share it with others. May we search to find the goodness in all your children instead of seeing the evil that Satan has wrapped them in. Turn us into the wheat of your love that nourishes our community and the world, so that all will bow down before you and proclaim you as God. Change our hearts, O Lord. Amen. So as we pray for the world and for others, we come in a time of prayer and we pray for those who are in need this day, for those who have lost loved ones, for the McKeever family and the Boucher family. I ask that you always keep Tom in prayer. And our new DS, Paul Ritchie, what a job he has to learn. Whenever we get a new DS, they go to North Carolina and they go to DS school. They have to learn how to be a DS. There's a lot involved. Well, there is no DS school. So they're learning online, like the kids are learning in school. And he says it's hard to figure it all out, to read something, go back and ask, find someone to ask a question, and then try to lead the district when you're not sure yourself. So please keep Paul in your prayer. Our first responders, as they go about acting like nothing has changed, for they still need to respond. I ask that you keep Whip's cousin Colleen in your prayers that she has cancer. For the congregation of Mapletown, whose church burnt down, and the adjoining parsonage, parsonage. The adjoining parsonage burned down with the family who rents. They were inside, and thank God they all got out safely. I pray for Christ's church, that as it seems that people turn away, I pray for the church that we, as the church, will bring others back. Do we have any other prayer requests? Cindy?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I saw all that up there. How about the preschool? We have a lot of challenges in Methodist.
Yes. For the preschool,
More so than the big schools, I believe.
I wrote that down. I don't know where I put it, because it was supposed to be on here. For the preschool, Friday night had their graduation, and we had to say goodbye to a bunch of kids who missed a quarter of their, or a third of their school year. They had to go into kindergarten knowing all this stuff, but they had to continue learning online. The kids have a great challenge before them, as do the teachers of all the public schools, but the preschools, there are no guidelines. They say, oh, just follow the school district. Well, that doesn't always apply. Follow these guidelines, but they don't always apply. The preschool is really having the challenge of, as I sit here and I try to corral you to get you to stay in your seat and not talk real close or hold on to each other, or imagine doing that with a 3- and 4-year-old. Keep your mask on, don't touch your face. Your mask goes over your nose, not on your head. It will be an ongoing day of put your mask on, put your mask on, put your mask on, and trying to teach them at the same time. But we have a wonderful staff here that have been working on this all summer. And I thank God for all of them. Do we have others? Yes, Mom.
Yeah, we saw our cousin Christy Krisnarick at a family gathering yesterday, Noah's graduation. Christy is still undergoing chemo, but she looked really, really good and strong.
Good. Good. So they believe the treatments are helping her again?
Yes, they are.
Good.
Tom Ambrosia had some kind of laser treatment, which supposedly went well, but they're telling him now his heart isn't up to snuff enough to have the lower lobe of the lung removed. So he's supposed to have chemo and radiation starting sometime in August. But I talked to him last night, and he sounded very bothered. And it also is in his lymph nodes and his thyroid.
For Tom Ambrosia, please keep Tom in your prayers as he's fighting cancer, and now he's unable to have the surgery that was needed. So they will fight with chemo and radiation and pray.
And he did say thank you for everyone who's been praying for him. It was on the prayer.
If there are no others, Donna?
I have two. My neighbor, Janet Wagner, is having trouble with her left eye. She basically has no vision left. So she was going to the doctors on Friday to see if her vision or her eye can actually be saved at this point. And we just, I don't know if we can find a cure for it. And then also, we need to pray for a safe, effective vaccine for this virus. I know a lot of people aren't keen on vaccines, but notice the word safe and effective, so we can return to some kind of normalcy next year, and we can start off 2021 with, and get rid of 2020 altogether. So I think a safe, effective vaccine is really, you should really pray for it.
Donna would like prayers for Janet Wagner, who has lost vision in her eyes, and praying the medical community will be able to restore and save her eye. And also for a safe vaccine that, as it helps one thing, it won't give us something else. And I give thanks to all those who are volunteering to be the guinea pigs. I don't know if I could volunteer to do that. That takes some courage and some trust. So I praise God for those who are willing to come and get that first vaccine and see how it does. If there are no others, let us go to our Father in heaven. Patient and loving God, when we are groaning and frightening and worried about the day, you comfort us and you forgive us for our shortcomings, for our impatience. When we are in doubt and afraid, you comfort us and reveal your promises once again. We ask that you come to help us with our trust with hope, to wait with patience, even as you patiently love us with your mercy and your grace. We do have this hope in you, Lord, for you are all loving, all-knowing, and we know your promises are sure, that Christ is with us, and his mercy is upon us. We know that all will be what will be, and that's okay because you are here with us. And we pray that those on our list today hear that as well. For we thank you that Christy is remaining strong through this second battle. We pray that you will be with Tom and he will know that you are God through his struggle as well. Lord, what a terrible thing Janet is going through at this time with her vision. What a loss. It's something that many people fear in their lives, and we pray that you will hold Janet and give her the comfort and help her to find the doctors who will be able to restore some vision. Father God, living in this time of the vaccine of the virus, we do pray for a safe vaccine to come, that your world cannot continue like this, not living. You have shown us how our selfishness does bring it right back. So Lord, help us to be patient, for we know you have this. Help us to be strong in our convictions to do what we can to be safe and not spread it to others. Father God, we thank you for those who are willing to be the test subjects for the vaccine when it comes out. For Lord, your children, your young children, long to learn, they long to be in school, but Lord, we don't know what is going wisdom in what to do. We need your Holy Spirit to come and flow through not just this school, but all across your world, for kids to learn safely, to be in a place of love, a place that will feed them both body and spirit. Help us, Lord, through this. Father God, there are those people out there who their gift has to be to hear from you the names of the people who need your grace, who need to know they're not alone. And Lord, we thank you for those people who send out the cards, who send flowers, make phone calls. Father God, those people they're good people. They're pure in heart, and they think of others all the time. So Father, we lift up your children here on earth, that they may know that you are God, and they may follow wherever the Spirit leads. We ask that you be with Colleen, for the Boucher family who has lost Mark this week, for your church in Mapletown that has lost their building, their house. It seems they've lost everything, but Lord, they have not lost hope. They have not lost you, so they count themselves as fortunate, as blessed. So we lift up them, all who are involved there in their struggle. You sent us your Son who loves us, who saved us, who prays for us even in this moment. And as he taught us, Lord, as your children, we come to you and say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. As you came into this holy space today, you saw that the offering plates were there. If you did not put your offering into the plate as you entered, please do so as you exit. We have been very fortunate in this church that while we are down some in our tithes and our offerings, for the majority we have been truly blessed with those who remain faithful, that we can continue what God has in store for this church and for the ministries. So let us go to the Lord in thanksgiving for the blessings that we've received. Father God, for these blessings in the plates, we thank you and praise your name and ask that they grow. We ask for the wisdom and the knowledge to send them out upon your world. We ask that you be with us to give us the hearts of joyful giving. And we pray this in our precious Savior's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Our closing hymn is one of my favorites, and it's the Hymn of Promise.
Thank you.
be gracious unto you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
Thank you.